Before we start creating designs, or we hit the software and start creating designs, it's essential for us to understand the elements of design, to have like a basic understanding of these elements. Some of these elements are going to help us craft better designs and understand how to go about our designs. Elements of designs. Elements of designs are the fundamental components and building blocks that artists, designers, and creatives use to create visual compositions. These elements are basic tools that help convey messages, emotions, and aesthetics in various forms of visual art, graphic design, interior, fashion design, and more. So basically, element of designs are kind of some basic elements that are necessary when doing anything design or anything that's related to design in a way. So we're going to start by looking into the basic element of design. First of all, we're going to look at the color. So color in designs, color refers to like the amount of lights that is being reflected off of an object. So basically, color refers to the hue and saturation and brightness of an object or a surface. It is a fundamental element of design along with line, shape, and the rest. So color kind of create like an emotion and it convey a specific meaning. So each color, like we know, red, blue, green, each color has kind of a mood that it evokes. And the usage of color in your design would kind of speak for itself. Like if you use a dark color, it's conveys kind of a dark mode and kind of let's say moody feeling. Why if you use a bright color, it conveys light. So I'm going to zoom in here. This is the color psychology of color. So as you can see, this psychology of color kind of points out the essential meaning of each color. Let me start with red. So you see red. Red conveys strength, basically strength, and it has other meaning around it like power, bold, alarming, anger, and direct. I think. Then you go down, you see pink. Pink conveys romance, love, and others related compassion. So you see purple also conveys rebellious, passion, sophistication, sincerity, calm. So you see, each of these colors have a specific mood that they convey and a meaning that's attached to them. So the usage of color in your design kind of convey the meaning. And when you're working on like a brand project, the kind of colors that you color palettes that you choose to use for a brand would depend on will kind of it should kind of reflect on this meaning. So if you're working on a specific brand, it's essential to check the kind of colors that are appropriate to use for them. So this is the color wheels. The color wheels is a valuable tool that helps us to decide what color is best to use for a design and what color is effective. So looking at this, you could know what color you can maybe pick from here to use for your design. And this is the gradient. Gradient is kind of the mixture of two colors to create to give like a reflection or a kind of a beauty, like to beautify your design. So this is the yellow and green, blue. You see, just kind of mixing two or three colors in a way that they look nice and look visually appealing. So the next element of design we're looking at is shape. Shape refers to the outline or form of a two-dimensional or three-dimensional object. It is one of the fundamental elements of design along with line, color, texture, and space. So basically in design, there are two type of shape. So when we talk about shape, we have the geometric shape We have the organic shape. Geometric shape are normal shapes that we know, square shape, rectangle, circle, octagon, oval, and triangle. So while the organic shape are free form shapes that have been created, these particular shapes they don't really have like a particular name and a particular direction. They're just like um, they just created free form. So you can just stylishly create a shape like you see this. When you use the pencil, you could just create a shape depending on what you're working on, a shape that fits to your design. So the next element we are looking at is line. So line refers to a continuous mark made on on a surface with a defined length and direction. It is one of the fundamental elements of design along with shape, color, and textures. So line can be straight, curved, thin, and can create a sense of movement. So you could see lines here. Line creates a kind of a sense of movement, either from the left to right, up, down, depending on how it is. So when it comes to line, we have vertical line, horizontal line, zigzag, diagonal, curvy lines, and other kind of lines. So they can be used to create a visual connection between different elements and can lead the viewer's eye to a specific focal point. So lines can be used to point to a specific object or a specific idea in a design. So if you could see these curvy lines here, it's kind of giving this wavy direction up up in the design, like this wavy connection here, like kind of directing us up here. So you could use lines to point something or create or draw people's attention to a particular object. So next up, we have space. Space refers to the area around, between, or within an object. Space can be used to create a sense of balance, harmony, proportion in a design. So in design, we have basically two types of shapes. So we have positive space and negative space. The positive space is the actual object itself. So positive space are like the space that has been occupied by an object itself, while negative space are space that are being created from maybe open space between probably two objects or a space that is created in between or through a particular object. So if you could see with these reference images here, you could see this one, we have this hand. It's kind of dropping a plane into like a city. So this hand here is a positive space, and the city too are positive spaces. So looking at the second image here, you could see the black area here shows like someone who is singing into a microphone. Now, looking at the mouth, the open mouth, you could see it creates a negative space with an icon of a man also singing with his mouth open and hand direction. You see the negative space is being created with this other human face here that has been created in the mouth of the other person singing. So here we also see positive negative space used here. You see like someone walking and the up side of his body is in front of the second one. So you see how space is being used here to convey a meaning. So next up we have textures. Texture refers to like the feel of an object. The feel of an object. Textures are like the visual or tactile quality of a surface or object. It is one of the fundamental elements of design alongside line and space. Textures can be tactile, such as a rough surface of a stone, or visual, such as a grainy appearance of a photograph. They can be natural like wood, stone, artificials, and digital patterns. So textures are basically created using patterns. Textures are basically created using patterns, and you can see it kind of gives us like a feel of a surface. Looking at this now, you could kind of have like an like an illusion of what this particular shapes, this particular texture, sorry, could give. It gives you a feel in your mind. You can't actually feel it, like you can't actually feel it by touching it, but you could have like an illusion of what it feels like just by looking at it. So next up, we're going to look at the principles of design. Principles of design are the next important elements when it comes to design. It contributes to the overall design and makes it effective. So, looking at principles of design are the guidelines and concepts that help artists, designers, and creative organize and arrange elements of design to create visually appealing and effective compositions. These principles serve as framework for achieving balance, harmony, unity, and visual interest in various forms of art and design. So basically, principles of design are kind of a guideline that help us craft good design. So looking at the first principle of design here, we have balance. Balance is the distribution of visual weights in a design. Balance can be symmetrical, asymmetrical, or radial. So there are three types of balance. Balance, the first one is symmetrical. So symmetrical balance, this actually entails equal distribution of the elements in a design. It involves distributing placing the elements, the objects in a design in a way that they have equal balance. It gives like a mirrored effect. So looking at this, you could see that looking at this first design here, you could see that all the elements and the objects are being arranged in a central point. The typographies, this image here, the image of the guy here, and other typographies below are being centralized. Now look at here. You could also observe that there are two kind of skull shiny effects here. Look at one, and it was duplicated and inverted and also replaced on the other side. So you could see that this design has a very like it's very balanced. The objects here are actually very very balanced. So this is an example of symmetrical balance. Looking at this second image here, you could see that all the elements too are inside, are at the central point of the design. So that's basically what symmetrical balance entails. So looking at the second one is asymmetrical balance. This is kind of like an opposite of um of symmetrical balance. In When we talk about asymmetrical balance, the elements in a subject are being arranged in an uneven manner, like they are not really organized like that of the asymmetrical balance. Elements like the images, the typographies, and others are being arranged unevenly, but it still kind of gives like an achievement of the actual idea of the design. So looking at this, you could see that this image of this guy here is on the left side and the typography are on the right. So it doesn't have that centralized or balanced placement like that of the symmetrical balance. Looking at the second image here, you could see that these also have the white space of like a man holding a pillar and also holding something in his hand. You could see that it's being placed at the left side of the design, and the text are here. So you could see that there is no centralized or organized balance in the design here. So That's that about asymmetrical balance. So next up we have radial balance. Radial balance. This is when the elements in the design are being arranged around a central point. So looking at these images here, you could see that all the other elements, like in this first one, you could see that they use lines, different kind of lines, thick lines and thin lines to point to a specific direction, which is this round point here. Now looking at this one too, that has these pencils, all of them are being pointed that they're like pointing to a central point, like if a particular point here. So radial balance kind of directs our attention to a point, particular point in the design. So that's that about balance in design. So next up we have contrast. So in design, contrasts are like the differences between elements in a design. So contrast is the deliberate use of differences in elements such as color, size, shape, textures, or value to create visual interests and make certain elements stand out. Looking at these images, you could see that certain elements are more pronounced and like they are kind of giving drawing an attention to a particular element here. So contrast can draw viewers' attention to specific focal points, make it feel dull or uninteresting. So looking at these here, you can see that there are three circles. The first circle, the one at the middle, is bigger than the others. So obviously, our attention is more focused on this bigger one here. So contrast can also be used to show differences in like levels of elements in the design. So looking at this here, you could see that there are three like bar lines here. So the first one is taller than the second one, and the second one is taller than the short one. So this is kind of giving kind of a hierarchical idea here, showing that just giving us an idea of levels in this design. Same as the other image, you could see this one here with this man, the image of someone standing in front of a round circle. Assuming this orange color circle is not here, maybe we could hardly identify that someone was here. So now, um, the circle orange shape is used to create a contrast in the image to identify or to buttress the image of the man here. So that's that about contrast. So moving on, we have emphasis. Emphasis in design is used to draw our attention to particular focal points, and it also creates interest in the design. So emphasis are the areas or elements in the design that draws the viewer's attention. Emphasis can be created through color, contrast, size, or placement. Emphasis can be created through the use of various design elements, color, size, contrast. For example, a bright or contrasting color can be used to draw attention to a particular element in design, while large or unique shape can make it stand out from the rest of the other compositions. So, looking at these images here, you could see that this is an image of many eyes, but you could see that one of the eye is more pronounced, is bigger than the rest. It's different in color, and it's like the central idea in the design. This, if you main looking at this particular image, you could see that your attention will go first to this particular image of this eye here. So looking at the second image here, you could see this is an image of tomatoes. The other ones are red in color, while just this single one is green. So basically, when you look at this design, your attention is more focused on the green tomatoes. So the same here, you could see this one is this triangular shape here. The other ones are different color. Every other thing in this design is dark black and gray color and white, while this particular triangle shape that has been duplicated is it has red and orange color, so that draws our attention to that particular shape. So that's that about emphasis in design. So next up we have movement. So movement, this movement shows and directs viewers' attention through a design. It's mostly used in combination of other principles and can be used in variety of ways. So movement is kind of pointing our attention towards a particular point in a design. So looking at these images here, looking at the image here, you could observe that there's this kind of directional flow in the design that's directing our attention to this particular middle point here. So every other thing in the design, like the lines and other things used here, are directing our attention to this particular central point here. So looking at the second one, you could see that the typography here is directing our attention upward. So it gives like movements, kind of give like a directional movement, and it's telling you where to look, like moving your attention from one particular point of a design to the second or another points around it. So here you could see lines are being used alongside to portray movement in a design. So looking at these, you could see that lines and typographies are used here. So looking at this, you could see um, lines are being attached to these texts and it's giving kind of an upward movement. Kind of like the texts are levitating upward. So that's kind of is giving kind of an upward movement here. So that's that about movement. Then rhythm. Rhythm in design is closely related to movement, but rhythm is different because rhythm is kind of like a constant duplication of a particular element or an object in the design, and it kind of create like a flow within the design. So it's kind of constant repetition of a shape or an element in the design. So looking at these images here, you could see that the circle is being duplicated or is being constantly it appears multiple times in the design and is giving this flow here. It still has this element of this sense of movement from here to here and here to here, but it gives this rhythm. Like you get this rhythm here. Looking at this other image here too, you could see that the birds here are also giving kind of a directional rhythm here. And this one too, I like this one most because you could see it's giving kind of a rhymic pattern of, I think this is the shape of an icon of someone standing on a cliff and falling. So it's kind of giving a rhythm from upward to downward or something like that. So looking at this other image here, you could also observe the sense of rhythm here too. So next up we have proportions. Proportions refers to the relative size, scale, and visual weight of elements within a composition. So proportions basically is kind of showing us the difference in size of objects in a design. So looking at the first image here, you could see that the this standing dark should I call it rectangle shape here or bar shape here kind of give is showing us a difference. This first one is obviously bigger than the second one. Second one is obviously bigger than the third, and it gives us that sense of proportion in the design. So here too, you could see that the image of a little hen is far bigger than that of a man standing beside it. So it's kind of give us a difference in size of objects in a design. So proportion is the last principle of design. So looking at these, we've covered reading, proportions, movements, and emphasis, contrast. So having a good knowledge of these particular principles is actually very essential when it comes to design. So it's paramount for you to study these principles and understand how they can be used in design. So a good and a grounded knowledge of these elements and these principles will help you craft design in a better way. So you can see when looking at these principles and these elements, you can see that design is more than just putting out some images or some colors here and there in a frame or in kind of an artboard. It's more than just putting out elements anyhow. So these particular elements and principles will help you and guide you when you are making your designs. So next up, we're going to move in the next session. We're going to cover looking into the softwares and diving into how to use some of these principles to craft better designs. So thank you and keep watching.